My little sister wanted our dad's love so badly. She tried to become me. Now she's locked up, but her obsession won't stop. Every day I find more clues. She's planning something worse, and even my own reflection feels like a threat. If I don't stop her, soon nobody will remember who the real me is. Ever since our parents divorced when Emma was 6, she'd been desperate for dad's attention because he'd take me on weekends to movies, restaurants, and his new apartment. Meanwhile, he always had excuses for why he couldn't see Emma. She'd sit by the window for hours waiting for a car that never came. It broke my heart watching her suffer. But the morning after dad forgot her birthday, everything changed. She walked into breakfast with her hair parted exactly like mine, wearing my old sweater. Dad always loved when you wore this, she said. Mom looked worried, but I was just happy she'd stopped crying every night. At first, Emma's copying seemed sweet. She'd sit next to me doing homework, mimicking my handwriting perfectly. Dad says you have the prettiest penmanship, she'd giggle. She started using my shampoo, my perfume, even practiced my laugh in the mirror. Mom thought it was just a phase. When Emma started introducing herself with my name at school, even the counselor was understanding. Whatever helps her cope with the divorce. Kids who used to ignore her started calling her by my name, and she never corrected them. Dad bought her the same phone case as mine for Christmas. We were all relieved she seemed happier. But things got weird after our summer holidays. Emma pulled me into her room and smiled. Her front teeth had been filed down to match my chipped one from my bike accident. I gasped. She ran her tongue over them proudly. The dentist said it was unusual, but I insisted. Look what else. She then opened her closet, filled with exact copies of all my clothes, organized by what I wore each day. I keep a calendar, she explained, so I can be you perfectly. I confronted her gently. This is too much. No, you don't understand, she said calmly. Dad called me by your name last week. He's starting to see me. That night, Mom sat us both down, hands shaking. The school had called about Emma signing all her work with my name and demanded a meeting. Emma's face went cold. You're just jealous that Dad's starting to love me, she hissed before running to her room. We heard furniture scraping as she barricaded the door. Mom pounded and begged for hours while Emma screamed from inside, you want to call the daughter Dad loves? After that, I kept my distance. But on Saturday, she begged me to hang out. Please? Like old times? And even though she was an effing psycho, she was still my little sister, so I caved. That night, while watching TV in my room, she suddenly stood up. Just need the bathroom. But instead of turning left, she went right toward Mom's room. I followed, pushing the door open. The hallway light cast shadows on the worst thing I've ever seen. Emma was kneeling beside Mom's bed, carefully sealing Mom's left eye shut with super glue. I spotted the empty sleeping pills bottle beside her bed and knew she was dead asleep. Emma squeezed a precise line across the right eyelid. Emma, what the actual F are you doing? Making her ugly, she whispered without looking up. These manipulative eyes ruined our family. She pressed the lid down, holding it as the glue set. When Daddy sees her tomorrow, blind and helpless, he'll have to save us. I lunged forward, but she grabbed my wrist with shocking strength. Her ugliness infected me. That's why Daddy can't love me. Her eyes were wild, unfocused. But once she's ruined, he'll understand why I had to become you. Mom stirred. Emma calmly placed a hand over her mouth while pulling out another tube, for her lips next, so she can't lie anymore. I tried to call the police, but they wouldn't answer. So instead, I dialed my dad's number. Suddenly, Mom jerked awake, instinctively trying to open her eyes. Panic set in as she clawed at her face, making horrible choking sounds. Help me, my eyes won't open! Emma watched with satisfaction. Perfect. Finally ugly outside like inside. That's when Dad crashed through the door. He took in the scene. Mom sobbing, scratching at her sealed eyes, Emma holding more glue with that terrifying calm. Daddy, look! I fixed everything! Emma said proudly as he grabbed her. Now you'll see I'm the good daughter. She fought wildly as Dad pinned her down. Look what I did for you. When the glue won't come off, when she's blind forever, you'll thank me. The paramedics had to sedate her twice. Even as they carried her out, she was still smiling, convinced she'd saved our family by destroying it. The psychiatrist said she'd developed something called delusion of substitution. She genuinely believed she'd absorbed my identity. She was put in a juvenile psychiatric ward. Emma was stable, they said. So much so that she'd even earned phone privileges. My cell rang at 3 a.m., just breathing at first, then Emma's voice. I figured it out. The problem was trying to become you while you still existed. But there's another way. I hung up with trembling hands, my phone screen still glowing with Emma's number. The clock read 3:07 a.m. Mom was still at the hospital getting her eyes treated, and Dad had gone with the ambulance to make sure Emma was properly admitted. I was alone in the house, and Emma's words echoed in my mind. My fingers moved on autopilot, taking screenshot after screenshot of the call log. Evidence. I needed evidence. The psychiatrist had warned us Emma might try to manipulate the situation, but nobody expected her to get phone access so soon. Sleep was impossible. I barricaded my bedroom door with my dresser and sat on my bed, watching the sun slowly creep through my curtains. At 6:43 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. My stomach dropped as I read it. The message came with a photo. Emma in her hospital bed, wearing a standard issue gown that she'd drawn all over with markers to look exactly like my favorite pajamas. The same stars, the same moon pattern. Even the coffee stain I'd gotten last week was replicated. The text read, "Don't worry, sis. I'm not going anywhere," followed by a winking emoji. I threw on yesterday's clothes and drove straight to Dad's apartment. The doorman recognized me and waved me through. I pounded on Dad's door until he answered, still in his robe, coffee mug in hand. The mug read, "World's Best Dad," in Emma's shaky elementary school handwriting. I shoved my phone in his face, showing him the call log and the text. His face went pale. He set down the mug with shaking hands and sank onto his couch. That's when he broke, really broke. Started sobbing like I'd never seen before. He admitted he'd been visiting Emma every single day since she was admitted. Out of guilt, he said. He'd been telling her about our weekend plans, thinking it would help her feel included. He didn't realize she was memorizing every detail, planning something bigger. The drive home felt like a nightmare. I found Mom in the kitchen, her eyes wrapped in white gauze. She was trying to make coffee by feel, knocking over the sugar container. When she heard me come in, she turned toward my voice and started screaming. The eye drops the hospital had given her were burning terribly. She collapsed into a kitchen chair, admitting through tears that Emma had been asking her detailed questions about my birth for weeks before the attack. What time was I born? What was the weather like? Which nurse helped deliver me? Mom thought Emma was working on some kind of family tree project for therapy. My phone buzzed again. Jake, my boyfriend, texting frantically. Someone had called his work that morning, pretending to be me. They'd asked for his schedule, when he took breaks, when he'd be alone. The receptionist thought the voice sounded strange, mechanical almost, and refused to give out the information, but Jake was spooked. 2 days later, we had our first family meeting at the psychiatric facility. The conference room smelled like industrial disinfectant and despair. Emma's psychiatrist, a woman with kind eyes and gray-streaked hair, delivered news that made my blood run cold. Emma had been describing me in perfect detail to the other patients. Not just my appearance, but my mannerisms, my speech patterns, even the way I tilted my head when I was thinking. She'd been making them memorize these details, quizzing them during group sessions. One of the patients, a girl about Emma's age with bandages on her wrists, had approached the psychiatrist privately. She wanted to know if I was the real one, or if Emma was. The question haunted me for days. Driving home from that meeting, I stopped at my usual coffee shop. The barista, Marcus, who'd been serving me the same vanilla latte for 2 years, acted strange. He kept staring at me, then looking away. Finally, he leaned across the counter and whispered that someone had called that morning, ordering her usual, in a voice that sounded exactly like mine, but the order was wrong. They'd asked for extra whipped cream, which I never get because I'm lactose intolerant. Marcus thought maybe I was sick and my voice sounded different. I went straight to Emma's room when I got home. Mom had left it exactly as it was the night Emma was taken away. The super glue tubes were gone, evidence now, but everything else remained. I started searching methodically, starting with her desk, then her closet. Under her mattress, my fingers found something that made my heart stop. A notebook, thick, spiral bound, covered in stickers that matched the ones on my laptop. Inside, Emma had documented everything. My daily routines down to the minute. What time I showered, which shampoo I used first, how many times I typically hit snooze. She'd recorded conversations from months ago, word for word. Phone calls with Jake that she must have listened to through the heating vents. Even my passwords figured out by watching me type from across the room. Mom found me crying on Emma's floor, the notebook open in my lap. She couldn't see it clearly through her bandages, but she didn't need to. She confessed that her credit card statement had shown weird charges from 2 months ago. A voice recording app, some kind of software she didn't understand. When she'd called the credit card company, they'd said the purchases were made online and hidden within regular grocery store transactions. Emma had been practicing with technology, not just mimicry. My best friend Mia called while Mom and I were still processing everything. She was panicking. A new social media account had sent her a friend request, using photos stolen from my profile. The account was messaging her, asking about our plans this weekend and whether I'd mentioned anything about being sick. Mia knew immediately something was wrong because the typing style was off. Too formal, too careful. Not like me at all. Dad came by that evening for an emergency family meeting in our driveway. He couldn't even look at Mom's bandaged eyes. He admitted that Emma had been recording their phone calls for months. She'd told him she needed them for when I was gone. He thought she meant when I went to college. He didn't understand she meant something more permanent. I went back to Emma's room that night, searching more carefully. Under her bed, pushed far back against the wall, I found a manila folder. Inside were printed emails between our parents from years ago, during the divorce. Emma had guessed Mom's password, her maiden name plus birth year, and had been reading these emails at the public library. She'd highlighted every mention of me being easier to love or less difficult. One page was stained with blood. Emma must have been cutting herself while reading it, letting the blood drip onto the paper like some kind of ritual. The psychiatric hospital called the next morning. Emma's roommate, another troubled teen named Sarah, had started referring to herself as Emma's sister. The dad crying on his couch with Emma's handmade mug really got to me, and seeing the mom trying to make coffee while blind from the attack is just so sad. Emma's been planning this for months, learning everything about her sister's life down to the smallest details, and now she's even getting other patients at the hospital to pretend to be her sister too. This poor family is discovering how deep Emma's pain and planning really went. The night staff found her in the bathroom with a nail file, trying to file down her teeth to match mine. She'd never even met me, only seen me through Emma's descriptions. I started documenting everything, creating my own file of evidence. Every text, every call, every strange incident. The stack grew thicker each day. When I went to campus for my afternoon classes, 3 different classmates mentioned seeing me at the library the previous day, but I hadn't been there. Security footage revealed Emma's friend from high school, Chloe, dressed exactly like me, down to my backpack and the way I wore my hair in a messy bun. Dad finally showed me the texts Emma had been sending him before the incident. One made my stomach turn. She gets everything because she looks like Mom before you hated her. It was the first time anyone had acknowledged the real reason for Dad's favoritism. I looked like Mom before the marriage went bad. Emma looked like Mom after years of fighting and stress. Dad had been rejecting his own guilt every time he looked at Emma. The landline rang while I was home alone. Mom was at another doctor's appointment, trying to fix the damage to her eyes. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Emma's voice, soft and sweet, filled the line. She wasn't talking to me though. She thought Mom was home. Her words made my skin crawl. "I'm the daughter you wanted, remember? The one who didn't ruin your marriage." My boss called me into his office the next day. Someone had sent an email from a computer at the public library requesting extended leave for mental health reasons. The IT department had traced it to a library branch near the psychiatric facility. The email was perfectly written, professional, even included details about my current projects, but I hadn't sent it. Mom tried to get us into family therapy, but the therapist she found dismissed our concerns. Sibling rivalry was normal, she said. Competition for parental attention was natural after divorce. We didn't tell her about the superglue. We didn't tell her about the teeth filing. We didn't tell her about Emma's growing network of accomplices. The therapist's daughter went to school school with Emma. We couldn't risk it. I started staking out the psychiatric facility's visitor parking lot during my free time. That's when I spotted Chloe leaving with a manila envelope. I followed her to a FedEx store, watching from my car as she went inside. My heart pounded as I waited for her to leave, then went in myself. I convinced the clerk I was Chloe's sister, that she'd forgotten to include something important. He told me the package was addressed to my house. I intercepted it the next day, my hands shaking as I opened it. Inside were forged permission slips for school transfers, documents to change academic records, even a fake letter from me requesting to legally change my name to Emma's. The signatures were perfect. She'd been practicing from the notebook where she'd documented my handwriting. Sunday dinner at Grandma's house was usually my safe space, but even that was tainted now. Grandma mentioned, while passing the potatoes, that Emma had called her the previous week. Such a sweet girl, Grandma said, so interested in family history. She'd asked for my baby photos for a therapy project. Grandma had already mailed them. My baby photos were now in Emma's possession. I spent hours comparing our social media posts from the past year. The pattern was terrifying. Emma had been photographing my outfits every single day, building a detailed catalog. She knew which jeans I wore with which tops, which shoes meant I was having a bad day, which jacket I grabbed when I was in a hurry. A year of surveillance, right under our noses. Then Dr. Chen called. She was Emma's ward psychiatrist, and she wanted to meet with me privately. Against protocol, she said, but necessary. We met at a coffee shop downtown, where she revealed that Emma had been recruiting other patients for something called Project Sister. She'd been teaching them to walk like me, talk like me, even blink at the same intervals I did. Dad finally did something right. After Emma left him a voicemail in my voice saying, I forgive you for choosing wrong, he blocked her number. It was the first time he'd chosen protecting me over alleviating his guilt about Emma. Mom's best friend, Patricia, came forward with her own disturbing story. Emma had been visiting her for months before the incident, practicing being the good daughter. She'd ask detailed questions about Mom's childhood trauma, about what kind of daughter would have made Mom's life easier. Patricia thought it was therapy homework. She didn't realize Emma was building a new personality from scratch. Emma sent me photos from inside the psychiatric ward the next morning. She posed with 3 other patients, all styled to look exactly like me. Same hair part, same posture, even attempting my slight head tilt. One girl had white bandages wrapped around her jaw where she'd tried filing her teeth. The message underneath made my skin crawl. Look, I made you sisters. I recognized Emma's pattern immediately. She targeted the most vulnerable patients, girls already struggling with identity issues. Jake's younger sister had started receiving Instagram messages about sisterhood and becoming better together. I drove to their house that afternoon and explained everything to Jake's parents. They blocked Emma's fake accounts immediately, grateful I'd warned them before she could sink her hooks deeper. A nurse from Emma's ward reached out to Dr. Chen with concerns about the group dynamics during therapy sessions. Emma had been teaching other patients my exact mannerisms, turning group therapy into rehearsals. She'd have them practice my laugh, the way I tucked hair behind my ear, even how I held a pencil. The nurse watched Emma grade their performances, offering corrections with disturbing precision. Mrs. Patterson, my elderly neighbor, knocked on our door carrying a stack of unopened letters. Emma had been calling her collect from the ward, and when Mrs. Patterson stopped accepting the charges, the letters started arriving. I sat with her over tea, explaining Emma's condition. Mrs. Patterson's face went pale when she admitted Emma had been asking detailed questions about our spare key hiding spots during previous visits. I spent the entire weekend creating a comprehensive binder documenting Emma's escalation. Screenshots of texts, printouts of emails, dates and times of incidents, witness statements from neighbors and classmates. The evidence file grew thick enough to require dividers. Mom helped organize it chronologically while I created backup digital copies stored in 3 different cloud services. Campus security took my report seriously, but explained their limitations. Without concrete evidence of Chloe committing a crime on campus property, they could only increase patrols and flag her as a person of interest. The officer suggested I vary my routes and schedules, advice that felt both practical and terrifying. Dr. Chen became an unexpected ally in navigating Emma's manipulation. During our coffee meetings, she shared professional insights about identity delusion, while carefully respecting patient confidentiality. She mentioned treating a similar case years ago, where early intervention had prevented escalation. Her subtext was clear: document everything, stay vigilant, and don't underestimate Emma's determination. I discovered Emma had been visiting Dad's apartment building for weeks before her hospitalization. The doorman remembered her well, always dressed exactly like me, always carrying the same style coffee cup I favored. She'd befriended him by bringing homemade cookies, learning the door codes by watching him enter them. The building manager agreed to change all access codes after I showed him photos proving Emma and I were different people. Katie, who'd known Emma since elementary school, reached out through Facebook with her own disturbing story. In middle school, Emma had tried recruiting her for practice sessions, where they'd styled themselves like prettier, more popular girls. Katie's mom had shut it down after finding Emma's notebook filled with detailed observations about other students' appearances and behaviors. The pattern had started years earlier than anyone realized. Emma's texts grew more frequent and aggressive. When I stopped responding, she began sending long paragraphs analyzing why I was being cruel to myself. Mom noticed how calmly I handled each message, screenshotting without engaging, filing everything in the evidence binder. She commented on my maturity, finally seeing the strength I'd developed through years of being Emma's target and Dad's favorite. The 14-day hold on Emma was ending in 48 hours. The psychiatric facility couldn't extend it without a new incident demonstrating immediate danger. The social worker explained that Emma had been a model patient, following all rules, participating in therapy, taking her medications. Her Project Sister activities weren't considered dangerous enough to warrant continued involuntary commitment. During a case review, the psychiatrist discovered drawings hidden under Emma's mattress, detailed floor plans of my college buildings, my class schedule with professor names, even sketches of my usual study spots in the library. Each drawing included notes about timing, blind spots, and escape routes. The psychiatrist photographed everything for Emma's file, but explained that planning wasn't the same as action in terms of legal holds. Mom's hands shook violently during Emma's supervised phone call. Emma kept referring to Mom as our mother instead of just Mom, speaking as if there were two daughters sharing one identity. When Mom tried to correct her, Emma laughed and said she was confused about pronouns. The manipulation was so smooth that even I almost believed it was an innocent mistake. Emma made an offer through her social worker. She would legally change her name and move across the country if I signed documents allowing her to use my name. The paperwork was professionally drafted, probably by another patient with legal knowledge. I documented the blackmail attempt and refused through official channels, making sure everything went through the social worker to avoid direct contact. Dad's girlfriend, Rebecca, finally admitted she'd been receiving strange calls for weeks. Emma had been asking her detailed questions about what kind of daughter Dad really wanted, what would make him happiest, how to be the perfect child for him. Rebecca had thought it was therapeutic processing until she realized Emma was taking notes and asking for specific examples of my behavior during visits. Looking at the timeline I'd created, a pattern emerged. Emma's breakdown had started exactly 1 year after Dad remarried, the final proof that he'd moved on without her. His wedding photos showed the whole story, me standing next to him as a bridesmaid while Emma stood apart, already beginning to mirror my posture and expression. The photographer had captured the exact moment she'd decided to stop being herself. Emma's support network was smaller than I'd feared, but more dedicated than I'd hoped. Beyond Chloe and a few ward friends, most people saw through her delusions. Her old teachers remembered her as troubled but not dangerous. Former classmates avoided her attempts at contact. Only the most vulnerable fell for her manipulation, and even they often reached out for help once they recognized the pattern. I found more evidence in Emma's email drafts, accessed through Mom's old laptop where Emma had forgotten to log out. Unsent messages to Dad dated weeks before the superglue attack. I called Emma, "I'm your real daughter now. Please love me." The detail about Emma asking Mrs. Patterson about spare key locations shows how methodical her planning has been. What strikes me most is that timeline connection. Emma's breakdown starting exactly 1 year after Dad's wedding, with that photographer capturing the moment she decided to become someone else. The unsent email drafts saying, "I called Emma," reveal how deep this identity crisis goes. Each draft was more desperate than the last, showing her psychological break happening in real time through increasingly frantic messages. Jake proved himself by standing firm against Emma's attempts to break us up. She'd been sending him messages from fake accounts, pretending to be me and saying horrible things, then pretending to be concerned friends warning him about my mental health issues. He installed security cameras at his apartment without being asked, and changed his locks after learning about Emma's lockpicking searches in her browser history. Mom and I grew closer through shared vigilance. We developed a nightly routine of checking locks, reviewing security footage, and updating our evidence files. She stopped seeing me as just the easy daughter, and started recognizing the strength it took to be Emma's target for so many years. Our relationship deepened through facing this crisis together. Despite everything, I couldn't bring myself to hate Emma. During a session with Dr. Chen, I explained that I saw her as sick, not evil, but I also wouldn't sacrifice my safety for her delusions. Dr. Chen noted this showed remarkable emotional maturity and helped me process the difference between compassion and enabling. The discharge planning meeting arrived too quickly. Emma sat across from us in a conference room, wearing hospital scrubs that she'd altered with safety pins to match the fit of my favorite jeans. When she accidentally called me by my actual name, then quickly corrected herself to call me Emma, Dr. Chen caught the slip. It was the first crack in Emma's perfect performance. Phone records subpoenaed by the hospital showed Chloe had been receiving detailed instructions during Emma's approved calls, shopping lists for specific makeup brands, clothing stores to visit, even scripts for phone calls to make on Emma's behalf. Every call was supposedly about staying connected with friends, but actually contained coded instructions for identity theft preparation. 2 of Emma's recruited sisters approached me through the hospital social worker. They wanted out of the group but feared Emma's retaliation. Both had seen her violent drawings depicting what happened to traitors who abandoned the sisterhood. I helped connect them with appropriate therapy resources and documented their statements for the evidence file. The 30-day hold extension seemed like a victory until the hospital administrator explained its limitations. Without criminal charges or a clear immediate threat, Emma would eventually be released. The system wasn't designed for long-term containment of someone who could perfectly mimic sanity when needed. We had bought time, not safety. My support network solidified during this period. Jake, Mia, Dr. Chen, and surprisingly, Rebecca, who offered her apartment as a safe house if needed. Even Marcus from the coffee shop kept an eye out for anyone resembling me too closely. The community response reminded me that Emma's delusions only worked on the isolated and vulnerable. During a monitored visit, I confronted Emma directly for the first time since her hospitalization. I sat across from her in the visiting room and stated clearly that I knew she was hurting, but I wouldn't let her erase me. Her mask slipped for just a moment, pure rage flashing across her face before she recovered with a sweet smile and asked why I was being so mean to myself. Mom's coworkers initially dismissed our concerns as family drama until Emma's social media posts started surfacing. She'd been posting photos of herself with captions like, "Finally being myself," while tagged at locations I frequented. One coworker's brother was a lawyer who offered pro bono consultation about our options for protection. The hospital's discharge requirements included a detailed safety plan with clear boundaries between Emma and our family. She would need supervised housing, continued therapy, and absolutely no contact with me. Emma's options narrowed as each requirement was added to her release conditions. Her performed compliance became increasingly strained. During family therapy, Mom broke down and revealed her own history. As a teenager, she'd struggled with similar identity issues regarding her older sister. She'd been hospitalized briefly after trying to assume her sister's identity during a psychological break. The pattern was generational, but Mom had recovered with proper treatment. She'd hidden this history out of shame, not realizing it might have helped us understand Emma sooner. I took responsibility responsibility for ensuring Emma's recruited sisters got proper therapeutic support. Their parents were grateful, but also ashamed they'd missed the warning signs. One mother broke down crying, thanking me for protecting her daughter from becoming another version of me. The weight of preventing Emma from creating more victims felt overwhelming but necessary. Mrs. Patterson organized the neighborhood watch to monitor for Emma around our home. The community response was heartwarming, with neighbors sharing phone numbers and agreeing to report any suspicious activity. Even the mail carrier promised to watch for anyone matching my description acting unusually. Emma's manipulation attempts with Dad finally failed when his therapist helped him recognize the patterns: the guilt-based control, the emotional blackmail, the way she used his favoritism as a weapon. He started seeing how his rejection had created the perfect storm for her breakdown, while still maintaining that her actions were inexcusable. Grandma called in tears after Emma demanded my birth certificate for medical reasons. The manipulation was so smooth that Grandma had almost sent it before remembering our warnings. She recognized the pattern from her own sister's breakdown decades ago, another family secret finally coming to light. The generational trauma ran deeper than anyone had admitted. My professor apologized profusely after realizing she'd been corresponding with Emma thinking it was me. The emails had been perfect, discussing assignments with my exact writing style and knowledge level. Only a small detail about a childhood memory I'd shared in class gave it away. She promised to alert campus security about potential impersonation. Bank security footage from 3 weeks prior showed Emma attempting to access my accounts with a poorly made fake ID. The teller had followed protocol and refused service, but Emma had studied the interaction carefully. She'd been building a plan for financial identity theft alongside everything else. Tomorrow marked the end of Emma's 14-day hold. The facility couldn't extend without a new incident, and Emma had been too smart to provide one. The family meeting would be our last chance to establish boundaries before she gained more freedom. I spent the night reviewing our evidence file and preparing for whatever manipulation she might attempt. The discharge planning meeting revealed Emma's true state when told she couldn't return home. Her careful mask shattered as she screamed about her house and her family. Security had to intervene as she tried to grab the discharge papers, insisting they had the names wrong. The outburst bought us another 72 hours, but nothing more. The stakes crystallized during that meeting. Either Emma would accept treatment and work toward her own identity, or she would escalate to dangerous levels once released. There was no middle ground with her delusions this deep. The social worker's concerned expression confirmed what we all knew. The system wasn't equipped for this level of manipulation. I handled the meeting with calm authority that surprised everyone, including Emma, presenting the documented threats professionally, maintaining composure as she tried to provoke me, refusing to engage with her attempts at confusion. Emma seemed genuinely shocked by my measured responses, having expected the emotional reactions she'd triggered for years. Hospital administrators reviewed my evidence file with growing alarm. The scope of Emma's planning, the network she'd built, the detailed documentation of stalking behaviors, all painted a clear picture of escalating danger. They refused to discharge her to the family home, requiring alternative placement before any release. Dr. Chen's final report stated definitively that Emma posed an ongoing risk to my safety and identity. Her professional opinion carried weight with a treatment team, who began exploring long-term psychiatric placement options. The victory felt hollow knowing it was temporary, but it gave us time to strengthen our defenses. Our family began establishing new routines without Emma. Security systems were installed and tested. Daily check-ins became standard. Mom learned to navigate with her healing eyes while maintaining hypervigilance. The house felt different, safer, but sadder, as we accepted this new reality. Emma made one last manipulation attempt before her extended hold, calling Dad with claims that I had fabricated everything. She cried about being the victim of jealousy, insisting I couldn't handle sharing attention, but Dad had finally broken free from the guilt cycle. He told her loved her but wouldn't enable her delusions anymore, then hung up and blocked the number. 2 weeks into Emma's long-term placement, an uneasy peace settled over our lives. Mom's eyes slowly healed with treatment, though she'd need glasses permanently. Family therapy sessions focused on brutal honesty about Dad's favoritism and Mom's enabling behaviors. The truth was painful but necessary for preventing future breakdowns. 3 girls from Emma's sisterhood reached out for help escaping her influence even from inside the facility. Her reach had extended further than we'd known, with coded letters and smuggled phone calls maintaining her hold on vulnerable patients. Each girl's story revealed another layer of Emma's manipulation tactics. Using our documented evidence, the family lawyer secured a restraining order against Emma's known accomplices. The judge took teenage manipulation seriously after reviewing the file, understanding that Emma worked through others when direct contact was impossible. Chloe was served papers at her parents' house, finally forcing them to confront their daughter's involvement. The breakthrough felt complete when Chloe admitted everything to her parents and agreed to counseling. Without her primary outside accomplice, Emma's network crumbled. Other recruited helpers distanced themselves, suddenly seeing the situation clearly without Emma's constant influence. The house of cards was finally falling. The family therapy session that afternoon felt different. Dad's favoritism patterns emerged through painful admissions, while Mom's enabling behaviors became undeniable. The therapist documented everything, creating treatment plans for each family member. Emma's absence hung heavy in the room as we processed years of dysfunction that had led to this breaking point. Our lawyer reviewed the evidence file meticulously, drafting protective orders with specific provisions. Emma's DNA collection attempts particularly concerned him. He filed paperwork preventing any identity-related actions without court approval. The legal framework grew stronger each day, creating barriers Emma couldn't manipulate through charm or tears. Extended family members began choosing sides after reviewing the evidence. Most supported our protective measures after seeing Emma's detailed planning documents. A few distant relatives accused us of overreacting until they received their own manipulative calls from Emma. Reality hit hard when Emma tried recruiting their daughters for her sisterhood. The psychiatric facility increased security protocols after discovering Emma's Emma's escape planning documents. The bank teller in this story deserves a medal for spotting that fake ID though. And wow, Emma screaming about her house and her family when she couldn't go home is like when someone calls dibs on the last cookie, but everyone already saw them eat the whole box. Staff found detailed maps she'd drawn during art therapy, marking camera blind spots and shift changes. Her intelligence made her dangerous, but also helped justify continued containment. Each discovery strengthened the case for long-term treatment rather than quick release. Our home security system captured movement one night. The footage showed Chloe circling our property, taking photos of windows and doors. Police responded quickly, but she'd vanished. The incident proved Emma's influence extended beyond the facility walls, requiring constant vigilance from our entire support network. Dr. Chen's sessions with Emma revealed deeper delusions than initially diagnosed. Emma genuinely believed she was protecting the family by becoming me. In her mind, 2 daughters were too many for divorced parents to love. Her solution was elegant in its twisted logic: become the favored child to eliminate competition. The psychological reports grew thicker with each session. Mom's vision slowly improved, but permanent damage remained. She adapted with remarkable resilience, learning to navigate with limited peripheral vision. The physical scars served as daily reminders of Emma's capabilities, yet Mom refused to become bitter, focusing instead on understanding how she'd missed the warning signs for so long. Jake's parents installed their own security system after Emma's recruitment attempt on his sister. The entire neighborhood had mobilized, sharing information about suspicious activity. Emma's actions had created an unexpected benefit: a tightly knit community united in protection. Even strangers looked out for each other now. The facility's art therapy sessions revealed more disturbing content. Emma had been creating elaborate collages using photos she'd somehow obtained. My face appeared hundreds of times, carefully arranged to form larger images of herself. The therapist photographed everything before Emma could destroy evidence. Each piece demonstrated her obsession's depth. Financial forensics uncovered more of Emma's planning. She'd been slowly draining a savings account Mom had created for her, spending money on identity theft tools and surveillance equipment. The purchases dated back 2 years, showing this wasn't a sudden break, but a long-term plan. Every revelation added another layer to our protective strategies. Campus security increased their vigilance after multiple sightings of Emma's recruits. The sisters had been attending my classes, taking notes on my behavior and interactions. Professors received alerts with photos, learning to identify potential imposters. My education continued under a cloud of necessary paranoia. Dr. Chen arranged a revolutionary treatment approach for Emma. Instead of fighting the delusion directly, therapy would focus on making Emma's own identity more appealing than mine. The process would take years, but offered hope for eventual recovery. Progress reports showed minimal improvement initially, with Emma resisting any suggestion she wasn't me. Our family lawyer discovered Emma had filed paperwork attempting to legally change her name to mine. The application was rejected due to her psychiatric hold, but the attempt showed her determination. Legal barriers multiplied as we closed every loophole Emma might exploit. The paperwork alone filled multiple filing cabinets. Mrs. Patterson passed away suddenly from a heart attack. At her funeral, her daughter thanked me for protecting her mother from Emma's manipulation in her final months. The community loss brought everyone closer, strengthening our resolve to maintain boundaries. Emma sent a sympathy card from the facility, signed with my name. Dad's therapy revealed his own childhood trauma around favoritism between siblings. His parents had openly preferred his brother, creating wounds he'd unconsciously recreated with Emma and me. The cycle of generational damage became clear as he worked to break these patterns. His commitment to healing felt genuine for the first time. Emma's facility implemented new policies after discovering her recruitment network. Patient interactions were monitored more closely, preventing the formation of dangerous groups. Other facilities nationwide requested our documentation to prevent similar situations. Emma had inadvertently improved mental health security protocols through her actions. The restraining order against Chloe proved effective when she was arrested trying to enter my workplace. Police found detailed instructions from Emma in her possession, including scripts for conversations and specific items to steal. Chloe's parents finally accepted their daughter needed serious intervention. The arrest made local news, warning others about manipulation tactics. Mom's eye surgery provided minimal improvement but prevented further deterioration. She wore special glasses now, adapting to her new reality with grace. The experience had fundamentally changed her, making her hypervigilant but also more present. She noticed details about people she'd previously overlooked, including early warning signs of manipulation. Emma's 18th birthday approached with complicated emotions. Legal adulthood meant new challenges for maintaining her treatment. The facility worked with our lawyer to ensure continuity of care through proper channels. Emma would transition to an adult facility with specialized programs for identity disorders. The birthday passed without family acknowledgement. Dr. Chen published a case study about Emma's condition, anonymizing details while sharing treatment insights. The paper helped other professionals recognize similar patterns early. Emma's case became educational material for psychiatric residents, potentially preventing future tragedies. Her legacy might ultimately be helping others avoid her path. Our home felt different now, secured but somehow smaller. Every door had multiple locks, windows bore security film, and cameras monitored all angles. The fortress we'd built protected us physically while reminding us daily of why it was necessary. Freedom had been traded for safety, a bargain we hadn't asked to make. Emma's letters arrived sporadically, always intercepted by the facility before reaching us. Staff shared their contents during family meetings, revealing her shifting delusions. Sometimes she wrote as me, other times as herself planning to become me. The consistency was in her inconsistency, showing how fractured her identity had become. Jake proposed during a quiet dinner at home. The normalcy of the moment felt surreal after months of chaos. He'd weathered Emma's storms without wavering, proving his commitment went beyond words. The engagement ring was simple, purchased with cash to avoid Emma somehow discovering the transaction. Even joy required security security measures now. The facility's 6-month review showed Emma's condition remained unchanged. She'd mastered the appearance of progress without actual improvement. Staff recommended indefinite treatment with regular reassessments. The news felt both relieving and heartbreaking. My sister was gone, replaced by someone who wanted to be me. Mom discovered old home videos while organizing closets. Emma as a toddler, laughing and playing, no sign of the darkness to come. We watched them together, grieving the child she'd been before Dad's rejection twisted her into something unrecognizable. The tapes went back into storage, too painful for regular viewing. Graduation approached with bittersweet anticipation. Campus security coordinated with local police to ensure Emma's network couldn't disrupt the ceremony. My academic achievement felt hollow knowing Emma watched from her facility, probably planning her own twisted version of my success. The diploma represented survival as much as education. Dad remarried Rebecca in a small ceremony we didn't attend. The choice felt right, avoiding potential triggers for Emma while maintaining our own boundaries. He sent photos afterward, his happiness evident but tinged with sadness. The family he'd broken couldn't be rebuilt, only reimagined in safer configurations. Emma's artwork evolved into abstract pieces that therapists couldn't interpret. The facility displayed some in their newsletter, praising her technical skill while missing the hidden messages. I recognized my own facial features embedded in every piece, fragmented and reassembled into new patterns. Her obsession had found artistic expression. The 1-year anniversary of the superglue attack arrived with unexpected emotions. Mom touched her scarred eyelids gently, processing how far we'd come. The house stood secured, relationships had deepened through crisis, and Emma remained safely contained. We'd survived her attempt to destroy us, emerging changed but intact. Dr. Chen retired, passing Emma's case to a younger colleague. Her final session notes expressed hope for eventual breakthrough, but acknowledged the journey would be long. She'd become more than a psychiatrist to our family, a guide through impossible terrain. Her replacement seemed competent, but lacked Chen's intuitive understanding. Emma's facility reported a minor incident involving another patient. She'd convinced a new admission to call their family claiming to be Emma's sister, me. The manipulation attempt failed quickly, but showed Emma's methods remained active. Treatment adjusted to address this ongoing behavior pattern. Her creativity in finding new victims seemed endless. Moving forward meant accepting our new normal. Security checks became routine, documentation continued daily, and Emma's absence felt both painful and necessary. The girl who'd sat by windows waiting for Dad had transformed into someone dangerous, driven by rejection into delusion. Love couldn't fix what trauma had broken. Our family found stability in structure. Weekly therapy sessions, monthly security reviews, and constant communication kept us functioning. Emma's shadow lingered, but no longer controlled our choices. We'd learned to live with necessary boundaries, finding joy in small moments while maintaining vigilance. The balance felt sustainable, if not ideal. 3 years later, Emma remained in treatment, her condition unchanged but managed. She'd created an entire identity around being me, complete with fabricated memories and experiences. The facility provided excellent care within secure boundaries. I visited once, seeing myself reflected in her appearance and mannerisms. The visit confirmed what we'd accepted. My sister was gone, replaced by someone who believed they were me. Our family had healed around her absence, scarred but surviving, loving her from a distance that kept us all safe. While that's one way to end things, Emma's still convinced she's her sister 3 years later. Hope you guys enjoyed this story. Peace.